to Virginia Commonwealth University's May commencement ceremony. Today, we gather for the honor of celebrating the accomplishments of VCU's class of 2017. My name is Gail Hackett, and I'm the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. On behalf of President Michael Rao, the Board of Visitors, and our faculty and staff, it is a pleasure to welcome you to this morning's commencement ceremony. I'm pleased to recognize our VCU Police Honor Guard, our soloist, Victoria Jackson, and the VCU Commencement Band conducted by Terry Austin. Let me begin by introducing those who share the platform with me today. I will ask the members of the platform party to rise as you are recognized, and please remain standing. Please kindly hold your applause until the end of the introductions. Seated here in the front row, Rector of the VCU Board of Visitors, John Luke Jr., Vice Rector Phoebe Hall, and other members of the Board of Visitors. Also, our VCU Alumni President, Jim Williams. Seated behind me are University Vice Presidents. Seated behind me to my right, Faculty Senate President Holly Alford and Student Government Association Presidents Connor Jarrett and Katie Clark. Also seated behind me, Mikel Kahara, Dean for the School of the Arts in Qatar. Our deans representing each of the schools and colleges with graduates today are also here on the platform. On each side of the stage are our Grand Marshals McKenna Brown and Ellen Byrne. Other members of the platform party who are not recognized at this time will be recognized during the program. I'm also pleased to acknowledge and extend a warm welcome to students and guests from VCU's campus in Doha, Qatar, who are seated in the President's box. Please join me in recognizing this wonderful group of people. In various locations around the arena are members of our outstanding and committed faculty, including several Emeriti faculty members who have joined us today. Would all faculty please rise and stand so that we may congratulate and thank you for the integral role you played in transforming the lives of all of our graduates.
You know, it's days like this when we get a chance to really celebrate the success of our graduates who will go out and shape society in so many different ways. It's wonderful to take a moment to highlight the extraordinary learning experience that you and our other faculty colleagues make possible for all of our students and frankly for so much of our community. So just one more time, I want you to take a moment to thank the Chief Academic Officer of the university, Gail Hackett. And to our graduates and all of your families, I offer absolutely heartfelt congratulations. So today, you'll graduate from one of America's premier research universities, and by the way, you have made this one of the most premier research universities, but you're doing this challenged and changed by your great experiences here. And you know, the greatest part of this education that you've had is that you will continue to be challenged and changed forever. You're going to continue to learn, you'll keep thinking, you'll keep progressing, and you'll keep changing your mind. And you know what? I want you to know that that's a really good thing, because as George Bernard Shaw told us, and I'm going to quote him directly, progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. We're counting on all of you as a new generation of great leaders to change a world that needs you. And that begins with changing how you see the world. Now, I've got to say that there is this perception out there, and every one of us know this, that changing your mind is somehow a very bad thing. There's strength, of course, in persistence and not wavering at all. We just revere people who are obstinate in the face of opposition, who cling to a belief that they've so long held. And those, we think, of course, who change their minds might be unreliable. They're careless, they're indeterminate. Well, the truth is that this is more than just a perception. There's actually some science behind it, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. So a few years ago, there were some researchers who put people in an MRI machine. This is a magnet that basically determines activity. And they presented them with some evidence that they believed passionately that something may actually be untrue. The MRI showed that their brains just reacted in the very same way that they do when they respond to a physical threat. And as one of the researchers had said, it was kind of the same brain activity that you would see if you were walking through a forest and suddenly see this bear. So here's the problem with that. When we ignore a new truth, when we refuse even to consider the legitimacy of something that we might disagree with, it really limits our ability to experience new things. And that's going to hold back humanity, because it will block our beliefs about what might be possible for any one of us to achieve. So, as lifelong learners who now have been shaped by your VCU education and all the great learning experiences that you've had, I want to ask you something. What are you going to do when you learn something new? Well, I know that you've got the courage to change your mind, to be self-aware enough, to be brave enough, to evolve. Changing our minds means that we have learned something new, and that's something we've got to seek out. Unless we do, we can never progress beyond where we are today. Isn't that sad? So changing your mind, I'm telling you, is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you know more than you used to know. Malcolm Gladwell, the great writer and modern-day philosopher, called changing your mind, and I need to quote him directly, make sure I get this right. Your responsibility as a person to constantly be updating your positions on as many things as possible. And if you don't contradict yourself on a regular basis, then, he says, you're not thinking. So, I ask you, as great leaders, as graduates of Virginia Commonwealth University, to go out there, keep thinking, keep evolving, and keep learning. That's how we're all going to progress together under your great leadership in a world that absolutely, positively needs you and the great minds that every one of you have. We are depending on you. So with that, I offer you the heartiest congratulations on behalf of Virginia Commonwealth University. You're going to be grand successes, and we know it. We need you. Congratulations. So I ask you at this time to please join me in welcoming back to VCU our Senator, our U.S. Senator and keynote speaker today, Tim Kaine.
Hey, thanks so much. And good morning. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please. What a tremendous honor to be back to speak to you graduates and to be here with so many friends. I try always to accept graduation invitations or invitations from staff and former staff to officiate at their weddings. I did my 14th wedding last weekend, and here I am with you today on graduation day. And the reason I always say yes, if I can, to wedding, officiating, and graduation speeches is not every day do you get the honor of being with someone in a day that will be one of the best days of their lives. And a graduation day is going to be one of the best days of your life. And to have the honor to share it with you is something that I deeply appreciate. I'm really glad to be here at VCU. I thank President Rao for his leadership and his kind invitation to come and be with you. So many of the board members and faculty members here are friends. I'm not a VCU alum. I did go to a school where black and gold were the color, M-I-Z-Z-O-U, but I'm not a VCU alum. Wow, okay, okay. But all three of my kids were born in VCU, and I've had multiple emergency room visits to VCU as well with 3 kids. I represented VCU as a city councilman. I've worked as a councilman and mayor and governor on the foundation of the VCU Engineering School, the formation of the Biotech Research Park that VCU wisely started 20 years ago, the expansion of the hospital and the medical school. I have been on the campus a million times to enjoy myself at theater and musical presentations, to talk to student groups, to meet with President Rao and others about issues in common. I feel very, very close to this community. I'm proud of VCU. I'm proud of its contribution to our city and state and nation, and I'm proud of the leadership that has been shown at this institution during the 33 years I've lived in Richmond. Thanks for the opportunity. Now, I accept graduation speeches, but graduation speeches are notoriously difficult. No one is interested in what a graduation speaker has to say. It is impossible to be memorable when you're thinking about the emotions of the moment and the party that you're going to have afterwards. I attended 3 graduations of my own: high school, college, law school. The most memorable was my high school graduation. I remember nothing of what the speaker said, and I was the speaker at my high school graduation. I only remember 2 things about the most memorable graduation I attended, my high school graduation, and both happened in the hall after the graduation. I walked out in the hall after the recessional, and the girl who had dumped me right before senior prom came over to me and gave me a kiss. I remember that like it was 5 minutes ago. And while I bring that up, if when you recess out, you are at odds with anybody in your graduating class or a professor, and things aren't completely square between you, and you go up to them and give them a hug or shake their hands or give them a kiss, I haven't seen Trish since that moment. That was 40 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. So if you're at odds with anybody, right after this recession would be a good time to just go over and wish them well, especially since you may not have to see them ever again. Second thing that happened right after that was I was looking for my mom and dad and my 2 brothers. And my parents walked up to me. I am so embarrassed to say this to you. I was 18 years old, and I thought I was cool. So when my parents came up to me at this memorable graduation, I shook my dad's hand, and I shook my mother's hand. I looked next to me, and the All-State center on our football team was giving his parents a big hug. And I remember thinking, why can't I be like that? Why can't I really show my parents that I'm not just a cool guy, but how much I really appreciate them? So the second thing I hope you'll do, and I'm sure you will when this is over, especially on Mother's Day weekend, is when you see your families and friends after this, you really let them know and don't hold anything back how much they meant to you and how much you appreciate them for getting you to this day. So having given you 2 pieces of advice about the hour after graduation, let me give you 1 piece of advice about life. Let me tell you a story that I've really been thinking about the last few years, especially the last few months, and just use it as a piece of advice. I was elected to the Senate in January 2013, and when you come to the Senate, there's sort of an interesting hazing ritual. They put you in a basement office that's windowless for about 6 months until you get a real office. I was in a tiny temporary office in the basement of the Dirksen building, and there were 20 of us in 4 very small offices that were connected. It was a perfect breeding ground for every flu, cough, and strep throat for about 6 months. Right outside my office was the front desk where constituent phone calls were coming in. And one day, I heard Liza, who was a very talented young staffer, who was answering the phone, take one call after the next. I was hearing her outside my open door, and I could only hear what she was saying, but it sounded as if she was having a rough day on the phone, and she was doing her best to calm one person down after the next. At the end of the day, I went out to Liza and I said, wow, that sounded tough. Tell me about it. Tell me what's going on the phone today. And Liza said this, all day long I've been answering the phone and people start off the call, yelling at me. And I said, wow, that kind of surprises me. But then she said, but here's the funny thing. I asked them a few questions about why they're calling. And within about 45 seconds, they calm down and they become absolutely as polite as they can be. Now that struck me as weird too, so I said, well, why, if they become polite so fast, why are they yelling at you as soon as you pick up the phone? And Liza gave me an answer that was a real aha moment for me, and I've been thinking about it a lot. Liza said, when they call, they don't think I'm going to listen to them unless they yell. It's like they expect not to be listened to, and when I actually take them seriously, they're surprised and immediately grateful. It's like they expect not to be listened to, and when I actually take them seriously, they're surprised and grateful. That was about 4 years ago, but I think about it all the time. And as I talk to my other staffers in my 6 offices around the state who answer the phone all day, they basically tell me the same thing that Liza did. People are expecting that you won't really listen to them. They've had that experience in the past and they think they're going to have it again. And when you do, even if you can't, solve their problem immediately, they actually become surprised and grateful. Of course, this is a lesson about politics, but not just about politics. People don't feel like Washington or their state capitol or their city hall really understand what they're going through. So those of us who work in politics, we have to acknowledge that, and we have to look for intentional ways to interact with people and do a better job of showing them that we're listening to them. And within politics, as we work with each other, legislators or others, we've got to do a better job of listening to each other. Bill Clinton once said about being president and having hundreds of thousands of federal employees, it's like being a cemetery director. Lots of people under you, but none of them listening to you. But the insight that people don't feel listened to is not just about politics. We live in a society where there's a lot of talking and not much listening. It sometimes seems like everybody's doing a monologue and there's not much real dialogue going on. Turn on TV and watch talking heads debate. They're not really listening to each other, they're trying to get their points in. Read people's online comments on your favorite website or blog. Watch passersby on the street. Or think about how often you check your emails and texts when you are with and supposed to be listening to families and friends. We have all kinds of ways to express ourselves, but really being present in the moment with somebody and really listening to them is uncommon. Ernest Hemingway noticed this. He said, I like to listen. I've learned a great deal from listening. Most people never listen. Or we listen to the things that we like and tune out the things that we don't. Simon and Garfunkel said, a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. Liza's insight, she was about 24 years old. She was a brand new staffer, but that insight has really been a motivator for me. I am not as good a listener as I can be, and sometimes you listen worse to the people closest to you, like family and staff and friends. But because of what Liza said to me, I try to really force myself to listen to people, to tune out distractions, to hear what they're telling me, and then let it sink in for a while and think about it, and yes, might even change my mind sometimes based on what I've heard. When I was governor, I want to honor somebody today. The most powerful legislator was a state representative, delegate named Bill Howell, the Republican Speaker of the House from Stafford County. He's retiring at the end of this year after a very long and very successful political career. We disagreed on virtually everything. Maybe 80% of the time. And that was from the first day I was in office till the end. And the disagreements frustrated me because they blocked him from getting some things done that he wanted done, and they frustrated him for the same reason. But we liked each other. And even through disagreement, we talked to each other. And through talking, we learned about some points where we actually agreed that we wouldn't have realized had we not kept talking. We found out that we both love open space, and so we worked together to preserve open space, especially Civil War and Revolutionary battlefields in Virginia. We found that we both wanted to ban smoking in restaurants, and so we worked together across party lines to ban smoking in restaurants and bars. Even if we disagreed 80% of the time, and let me be honest, if Bill Howell were here, he would say 90% of the time, we found areas where we could make progress because we never stopped communicating and listening to each other. Of course, there's so many issues that are controversial in politics right now. One last story that's about listening and not really about politics. I took the floor this week to give a big floor speech on the most controversial domestic issue right now, which is the future of our healthcare system. I'm on the Health Committee in the Senate. And it turns out that I went up to give the speech, I didn't realize, but a Republican colleague who's a physician was making a speech right before me on the same topic. And I'm sure he was there to state his piece, and then I'm there to state my piece. But as he was speaking, I found myself like, well, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. I heard a few points where I didn't agree, but I heard many points I agreed with. And then when I started to speak, he stayed and listened to my speech. And then he and I went up and talked to each other when I was done. And I walked away from that thinking, as hard as this issue is it all about policy? Or do we maybe have a listening problem here? We haven't listened enough to patients. We haven't listened enough to doctors. We haven't listened enough to businesses that are trying to buy health insurance for employees. We haven't listened enough to each other. It's fine to have your own point of view, but maybe it's more of a listening problem than a public policy problem. Let me tell you one last story and then conclude. And this is a story from my time on the campaign trail in 2016. As a nominee for vice president, I was a pretty boring guy, but I did bring one unusual thing to the ticket. I'm fluent in Spanish, and I was the first member of a national ticket that could actually campaign in Spanish, and I did it a lot on TV, radio, newspaper, and speeches. And when I would do an interview or a speech in Spanish afterwards, invariably, the interviewer or host would say, there's never been anybody on a ticket who could do that before. But once an interviewer said it a little bit different, and it gave me a real insight. We've never had anybody on a ticket who could listen to us in our own language. And I realized there, it wasn't my ability to speak Spanish, because I can assure you, I'm no Cervantes. I sound like an Irish Catholic dude speaking Spanish, right? It wasn't my ability to speak Spanish that meant anything to anybody. It was my ability to listen to people in Spanish, to listen to them speaking in the language where they felt the most comfortable. People want to feel listened to. So, there's many elements that will help you succeed in life. But in a hyper-connected world, where most of the good things that need doing take a team to be successful, I'll just tell you, a key for your success will be to be as good a listener as you can be. Focus on what people are really saying, undistracted by your electronics or your own impatience to jump in and say what you think. Let your listening widen your horizons and challenge your assumptions, and yes, even lead you to change your mind. People will really notice this. One of the most important things you can communicate to anybody is that you respect them. And if you want to communicate to somebody that you respect them, I would argue it's less about anything you say than about the degree of care that you bring to your effort to listen to them. All right, I've made you listen to me enough. I congratulate all of you VCU graduates, and not to put too much pressure on, but we're expecting a lot of great things from you. Thanks so much. It's good to be with you.
Senator Kane. Senator Kane, thank you so much for that great message, a great message from our U.S. Senator. And I want you to know that while you were speaking, in addition to the back of your head, I was also watching our graduates. And I want you to know that they were all listening. They really were, and for good reason. And I also want you to know that as I was looking out at the crowd, our graduates specifically, I realize how many of you I know and how many of you I admire. And one of the things I admire you so much for, and I want Senator Kane to hear this because as one of America's leaders, I think you should, I'm incredibly proud of you for how kind and loving all of you are toward each other. This is a group of people who I know well, and I have watched you over the years, and you're going to do great things in this world. So, Senator Kane, again, thank you very much. We're so proud and honored to have you with us. At this time, I will ask School of Dentistry Dean Dave Surratt to please come forward and present candidates for the degree Doctor of Dental Surgery.
Thank you. Will the candidates for the degree Doctor of Dental Surgery please rise? Mr. President, as Dean of the School of Dentistry, it gives me great pleasure to present these students who have fulfilled all requirements and are recommended by the faculty.
And by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Board of Visitors, and upon the recommendation of your faculty, it gives me great pleasure to confer upon each one of you the degree Doctor of Dental Surgery. Thank you. At this time, I will ask School of Medicine Dean Peter Buckley to please come forward and present candidates for the degree.
Thank you. Will the candidates for the degree of bachelor's degree in dental hygiene from the School of Dentistry please rise? Mr. President, as Dean of the School of Dentistry, it gives me great pleasure to present these students who have fulfilled all requirements and are recommended by their faculty.
And by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Board of Visitors, upon the recommendation of your faculty, I am pleased to confer upon each one of you your baccalaureate degrees. Thank you. And now I will ask School of Education Dean Andrew Dare to please come forward.
Thank you, President Robb. Will the candidates for all bachelor's degrees in the School of Education please rise?
We invite you to join over 183,000 alumni throughout the world, and with words and deeds show the excellence and quality of your education. Be proud of your university because we are proud of you. Our wish for each of you is that you realize your full potential, and in so doing, find a method of contributing back to society and the university in such a way that is meaningful for you. We're honored to welcome you into our alumni family. Congratulations, class of 2017.
Thank you very much, Jim. This is actually Jim's final commencement ceremony as VCU's alumni president. He's had a remarkable tenure of service and leadership to our university. It is my pleasure to officially make you VCU's newest alumni, so I want you to practice a tradition with me, which is to take the tassels on your mortarboards, move them from the right side of your mortarboard to the left side of your mortarboard. Please do that now. Congratulations to VCU's class of 2017!
This brings our commencement ceremony to a close. We ask that you kindly allow the platform party to exit. Our marshals will then lead you in your recessional. On behalf of President Rao and the VCU Board of Visitors, we wish you all the very best. Thank you again, and congratulations.
Ladies one is always How do you feel?
I'm pretty tired right now.
Why?
It was a long ceremony. I think the excitement was for yesterday. Yeah. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go straight up. Do that again, do that again.
Did you get it?
Keep going.
Hey, look how Tom made a pie. go to the dental school to get my diploma. Well, the dental school is that way. We can walk there.
Okay, then what?
And then from there, take pictures with Hera.
Okay.
And then from there, I think she's going to go to Fuss Up 1. That doesn't sound too bad. And it's not that filling.
Who's your bear friend, Lance? Lance. Lance, here's Mom. Go give Mom a big hug.
Son, doctor. Doctor, son. Son, who is a doctor? Mom, look, come find my wall.
What?
Dad, come here.
Why are you standing on this side? Look.
It looks good. First point. Oh, it's because all my classmates were taking pictures with it. Yeah.
Come this way. There you go. Ready?
It's my wall.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Look here. Okay. Okay.
There, and I want you to put your hand on your parents' shoulder. You gotta hold it.
Okay, you have to hold it.
Hold the teddy bear. There you go.
Oh, that's cute. I like that. Look here, look here, look here, look here. Okay.
Yeah, people were like, alright, to the dental school.
Hold on. Mom, stay there with Lance. Mom, stay there with Lance. No, just Mom, just Mom. No, just Mom, just Mom, just Mom. Just Mom. Huh? Look here. Alright.